Hello and welcome to another episode of me buying green stuff for the green screen. Today it's a pair of sunglasses. Unfortunately, they just look black, so maybe that was a waste of money. Let's see if there will be other background colors today that make them actually change. It's day 10. Let's solve the puzzle for day 10 for this year's Advent of Code. So let's just start reading. Day 10, syntax scoring. You ask the submarine to determine the best route of the deep sea cave, but it only replies syntax error in navigation subsystem online, all of them. All of them? The damage is worse than you thought. You bring up a copy of the navigation subsystem. Use puzzle input. The navigation subsystem syntax is made of several lines containing chunks. There are one or more chunks on each line, and chunks contain 0 or more other chunks. Adjacent chunks are not separated by a delimiter. If one chunk stops, the next chunk, if any, can immediately start. Every chunk must open and close with one of 4 legal pairs of matching characters. If a chunk opens with a rounded bracket, it must close with a rounded bracket. If a chunk opens with a square bracket, it must close with a square bracket. If a chunk opens with a curly bracket, it must close with a curly bracket. And if a chunk opens with a angle bracket, it must close with an angle bracket. So, open close is a legal chunk that contains no other chunks, as is the same with square brackets. More complex but valid chunks include those here and those and this. Some lines are incomplete, but others are corrupted. Find and discard the corrupted lines first. A corrupted line is one where a chunk closes with the wrong character. That is, where the character it opens and closes with do not form one of the 4 legal pairs listed above. Example of corrupted chunks include those. Such a chunk can appear anywhere within a line, and its presence causes the whole line to be considered corrupted. For example, consider the following navigation subsystem, yada yada yada. Some of the lines aren't corrupted, just incomplete. You can ignore these lines for now. The remaining 5 lines are corrupted. Here we find wrong characters, okay. Stop at the first incorrect closing character on each corrupted line. Did you know that the syntax checkers actually have contests to see who can get the high score for syntax errors in a file? It's true. To calculate the syntax error score for a line, take the first illegal character on the line and look it up in the following table. Okay, different points. In the above example, an illegal rounded bracket was found twice. 6 points, and so on and so on, and this makes 26,397 points. Find the first illegal character in each corrupted line of the navigation subsystem. What is the total syntax error score for those errors? Okay, and this is the input. Save this. And then let's go to IntelliJ. Let's start. It is day 10. Let's create a file for day 10. And yes, we will still continue with 2 functions, one for part 1, one for part 2, and the main function. And then let's get the puzzle input again. Put in. Okay. Where's it? Let's rename it. Day 10. Oh, I forgot the ending. Day 10 txt. And let's take a look at the example. So how do we want to do this? It's kind of a nice little puzzle because it's almost like parsing whatever. Like we are essentially building a small parser. And usually when parsing, the first step is, at least if you write it manually, is to write a scanner that gives you tokens, and then you can pass those tokens into some higher level abstract form. But here everything is just one character, so we can just read one character at a time. And then maybe, almost like a parser, say if we find this, we now either look for the ending or an opening of a new one. And what do we need to report? Since essentially we do not actually want to parse this, we need to report some points. This is whenever we find the first illegal character. Okay, let's say we have a function that parses a line. Yeah, we always want to parse a whole line, right? How is it called? Chunks. There are one or more chunks, and chunks contain... Okay, there can be more chunks because they can... As an example, they can close and then open a new one, right? Yeah. So what I'm wondering now is, if we find a chunk that is not legal, do we just stop at this point? Or do we try to somehow pass the next one, which might not even be possible since because the next chunk might not start at the point where the error was. It might start later, maybe. But this is not important here. Just look for closes with the wrong character. Yeah, let's say we have a parse line function. For now, it doesn't need to return anything. We pass in a line, and then we need some kind of pointer to remember where we are. I guess we could try to have a line and do we want to start? Well, the start position for a line is always 0, right? So maybe we want to pass in something more complex. Something like data class input, and our input has a value that is the string and an index that is 0. Then we can pass the thing around and always use the index to read. Let's try this. So we have an input, and as long as we are not at the end, we want to pass. So let's maybe create a helper is end, or is done maybe. And we are done when the index is at the position of the size, I guess. Wait, this is a function that needs to go in here. Or it's a property that will get a getter function. Oh, it's length. So the idea is we have this string, and this holder holds the string and has an index to specify at which position we are reading right now. We move this thing forward, and once it's at the at the length, so after the last character, we are done. So maybe create a function proceed that will just move our index. Gee, this doesn't really need to be a data class, I guess. Maybe keep it just to make it easier to print if we need to debug. So let's say we have an input, and while input is not done, we pass it. And we need to look at the current position. So let's say we have maybe a function current, and that is just returning the character at the index. So when current input.current. So what can we read? We can, if we start a line, then this is either one of those four. It can be this. Then we do something. Let's just write to do. It can be opening, what's the order? Yeah, this one, or this one. Or it can be neither. And then we throw. Now that I see this, I think we want to pass. Want to move this in a function that passes a chunk. We pass in the input. So at whatever this position, at whatever position this input is, just try to pass a chunk. And a chunk always starts with one of those characters. And then we create, I think, exceptions that map to the different errors, because that will help us for this exercise, I think, where we need to find or count specific errors, at least here, like whenever it closes with the wrong character. If you get a different character here, where we start the beginning of a chunk, try to pass the beginning of a chunk, that is not closes with the wrong character. So this is a different type of error. Let's see, do we create let's create one generic one, and that contains a message, and does it need a line or index? Let's maybe also the index where this error has happened, but maybe that's not super important because we still have the input. Yeah. Is it important? If we continue reading the input, it might be important. Well, let's try. Let's add it. It's not expensive to do. So a parser exception has some kind of message and an index at what it happened. So let's create an exception for this specific chunk parse exception, and this is a parser exception. And then of course this one needs those properties to pass them along. Okay, the problem now, this type is final. Yes, that is true. We can even make it abstract because we do not expect anyone else to throw the generic one. So if this not the beginning of a chunk, we throw chunk parse exception. unknown chunks or invalid chunk start. Now we might want to keep the character here, input current. So we can print it here. So let's look at the other ones. So we now need a function that passes the end. And this means it can pass other chunks or find the end. So now I'm wondering, since it's almost the same for all of them, do we need to have 4 methods, or can we just write one method that does it for all 4? Maybe we should start with a specific case and then we make it generic. So we pass, how do we call this thing? It is kind of a chunk actually. So this is maybe pass chunks. Or let's go back to pass line. How do we do this? So whenever, as long as we do not have, as long as we are not done, we pass a chunk from this input. This means we loop over this. So maybe we call a pass inner chunk. And we get an input, and we didn't move our index, and I think maybe we want to do this in here. We could do the following: proceed. Maybe it gets confusing. So maybe current and proceed. We have a function that returns the current character and then proceeds to the next one, so that we do not have to do both. Because we get the current, then we proceed, and then we return the current. Because then we can do here proceed, current and proceed. Oh yeah, and we can move this into the when. And well, let's move it back. Maybe we want more than that, because we need the index now too. Should we return a pair? Maybe we could try. What if we return something like this? It's a pair of the current character and the index it was read from. So we can do something like this and then use index here. What is the problem? Oh, this is not actually an exception. That is of course a problem. Exception. Now we might need to pass in the message here. Now we do not need to keep it here, and go. Okay, so back. We pass a line, which means we pass chunks until we are done. Passing a chunk means we look for a start character and then pass the inner part. And now I think we definitely want to make this generic, because this will be exactly the same. So here we pass an inner chunk from this input and want to end with rounded bracket. And this one, square bracket. Then curly bracket. And then the angle bracket, I guess it's called. Now the inner chunk. We already moved the index, so now we can look at, do almost the same like this. We get the current one and move one forward. If we find the end character that we pass in, then this chunk is done. And we can just return in this case because, hey, we are done, awesome. And if it's not, then we might need to pass another chunk that is inside this chunk, so we can just call pass chunk again. And in this case, index does not matter. Now, we will always, if there's an error, throw chunk pass exception now because we call into pass chunk again. The question here is, do we, because the thing we are interested in now closes with the wrong character. Well, we could, yeah. We could just catch it here. It gets a little bit ugly. But if it's a chunk pass exception that happens at this position here, then this is a different kind of error. Oh, what's wrong here? Why is this a problem now? Oh, we still need to pass in a message. It just doesn't need to be a property. Okay, so chunk and pass exception, because now we couldn't pass the end. And we can make it exactly the same. And then throw it as a new one. Chunk ended with, or unexpected chunk end. And oh, now we cannot print it because we do not know the character. We can just add this, I guess. Character, because we might want to have this in all of them. Oh, character. So let's always include the character. And we have all the information here. We can use it here. It's not public, or not even a value. Okay, character. And then we use the same values here. Now we have a different exception whenever we fail to pass inner chunk. I guess now we could try it on some lines. Do this. See how this behaves. Some of the lines aren't corrupted, just incomplete. Let's use this as a test. And then how do we want to actually read this? In this example, we can split this into lines. and then map it to an input of lines inputs, and then we map over those, I guess, for each. Have an input, or let's use the index one, and we know index we are at, and then we just pass. We do not actually return anything since we are not interested in knowing anything about the input just yet. And then we do a try catch, because this can fail with a parser. Was it a parser exception? Yeah, parser exception. And if it fails, we print line index parse error, and otherwise we just print it was successful. Line at index parse successfully. Okay, let's give this a quick run. Okay. Awesome, like every line is wrong. That is maybe not what we were going for. Some of the lines aren't corrupted, just incomplete. Ooh. That is maybe a good point. What if it's incomplete? We didn't look at this at all. But if it's incomplete, we should just go over. If it's incomplete, we should continue reading and then fail, because we try to read a character that is outside of the. And that's something we do not even check here. We just proceed all the time. So why do we run into this problem? Let's get the output back. Invalid chunk start. That is, we start on line 0. We might need the index. To actually figure out where we are when this happens. Index 8. So let's just look. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This should just close the other one. So why are we at the chunk start here? And to make it easier, for now, let's just look at this line only. And this is now almost complex enough to write tests and figure out what is happening and make sure that all the sub-steps are doing what they are supposed to do. Let's create a list. Okay, let's run this. Okay, we have a problem at index 8. Why is this the case? We just, well, let's take a look. That is the first end we read before that. So we should go deeper, 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 and then if we read one end. Oh yeah, I think I have an idea. This here is wrong. Because we only do this once. On the inner chunk, and it's the end character we return. If it's not, we pass a chunk and then the function ends. So what we want to do is while current is not the end character. So it's not the end character. So we can just try to pass inner chunks until we find the end character. Okay, what's the problem? Incompatible unit and boolean. Oh, while. And now we might actually run into an index out of bounds error. Oh, and now we do not proceed. That is a problem too. So after parsing a chunk, we can read current again. Maybe turn this instead into, well, we cannot deconstruct into the existing one. And let's do it like this. We only need to read current. We do not actually care about the index here. So, okay, so as long as we do not find the end character, we try to parse chunks and we continue and continue and continue. Unexpected chunk end. Now the question is, is this actually one of those here? No, so unexpected chunk end. What does this mean? We are at index 20. Which means we are here. So this is the unexpected chunk end. Why is this the case? Oh, yeah. No. What? We are opening and closing immediately. Actually, let's take a look here, because this means we are in this method. What is the actual error we are hitting? Okay, we are here. We got a chunk pass exit, invalid chunk start, end character. But there's no chunk start here. Why did we not read this? And if this is actually an error, why did this not happen here? There seems to still to be a weird off by one error. We read the current and then move on. Oh, wait a second. If this is the end character, we stop at that point. Do we? Yeah, we stop at the end character, but after that we actually want to proceed once after the end character so that we can read the next chunk. I'm surprised it happened so late though. Now we have a different error. Unexpected chunk at 10. Would be here. That's so weird. Jump into this. It tries to pass this as a start. What does this mean? Sometimes we need to proceed and sometimes we don't. Oh, I think I know the problem. Let's get rid of this for a second. So if we are at the end character, immediately we can go on and proceed. I think that is still fine. The problem is in here. If we just read a chunk and then we continue and it's not the end character and then we pass a chunk, since this one current and proceeds, we already jump to the next character here, which is an open bracket of some form, and then we go into pass chunk and then move another pass. So we're jumping over one character. So in this case, if this is not the end character, we should not have proceeded yet. We could move back, but that's weird too. And after reading the chunk, so we might just want to peek, maybe something like peek or current. Yeah, let's, if we just read a chunk and we expect to be at the next character already, let's only look at the current. But the same problem is happening here, I think. Because we're already at the next character. We read the next character. If it's the end character, yeah, awesome, done. Move one further. If it's not, pass a chunk. We are again at the next character. Is this now the end character? No, pass a chunk. If it's the end character, okay, just consume it, doesn't care. And then we continue. Now it should be right. Okay, an exception. String index out of range. This is more interesting now. Is it possible that we open stuff and never close it in this input? I'm not sure. Let's create an exception for that. How was this called here? Incomplete. Complete chunk exception. It gets all this stuff. Essentially, whenever this happens here, either when we proceed past, no, that is, yeah. Guess whenever we read current from a position. That is invalid. Index is larger or equals the size, length, and we throw. That's a incomplete chunk exception. Incomplete chunk. And that is wondering. Character, there's no character here. We need a different type of parser exception here, or make the character optional. I guess we make it optional. Shouldn't be a problem. And then we have an index that is okay. Here we need to make it optional too. And here, and likely here too. Okay, where were we? Oh yeah, we are throwing incomplete chunk exception. Now we can use this here too, because we pass an inner chunk. And we can catch this. And do we want to make... The thing I'm wondering now is we could... This one knows what we are looking for. This one in here unfortunately does not. So maybe wrap this into a new one. It's not awesome, but it's okay. Incomplete chunk was looking for and character. We still have no character. Index. Let's run this. We get a better error. Incomplete chunk was looking for closing. Now we can maybe try to verify this. We only need to look at the square brackets. So open 1 and 2. Open 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, and yeah, definitely do not close them. Okay, awesome. Let's try this again with all the stuff. And yeah, normally it would have been nice to actually write tests and then verify that the individual things do what we want. Okay, now we ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 unexpected ends. This is the same as this. Yeah. Let's go back. unexpected chunk end. Let's also write here was looking for and character. Okay, so square bracket, expected square bracket, but found curly. Yeah, expected square bracket found round. Yeah, was looking for round but found square. Looking for angle and found round. Yeah, was looking for square and found angle. Yeah, okay, I think we have exactly the same input. Let's move this to a debug function, I guess. Maybe we can use this later on. We can use the same to calculate the points now, I guess. And whenever we were looking for a chunk, we could maybe pass in the end character. Because that will help us to calculate the points. And then, you know what? I actually do not really like that this is nullable, so we make this non-null. And we throw something else here. Class input end of file. And that's just an exception. Just so that we have a different type than out of bounds exception, because we are looking for exactly this case. And then we look for this here. And we can just use the index input. Awesome. Let's call debug. And now we need to look for exactly the exceptions we care for to calculate the points. And that's only, no, not incomplete chunk. It's, wait, which one is it? Chunk and pass exception, right? We were looking for and character. Let's pass this into the exception so that we can use it. Let's also format this a little bit better. Where do I need to put it? Here, and character. So let's write another catch. If we only care about the chunk end, and then we create some kind of result, and print the result. Oh, there's something wrong with the brackets here. Okay, like this, and start with the result of 0. And then here we add, let's create a quick helper to get the points. Get points for a character when round gives 3, square gives 57, curly a ton, and then we have angle bracket even more. This needs to be character. And if it's nothing, that is an illegal state. No points for character. This one. So here we add the points for, let's go to the exception. This one needs to be kept so that we can use it. And here we add the points for the end character. Let's see, what points do we get for the debug example? 25,000. That is absolutely wrong. Did I make a mistake with the points? 357, 1197, 20. No. That looks okay-ish. And we are using the whole example here, right? Yeah, something is wrong. Let's actually print those, because those are the most interesting ones. Oh wait, do we use the found ones or take the first illegal character? The legal character. We are not interested in the valid character. Let's still print them, I guess. Line index was looking for character, but found character. And then we add the points for the current character, not the end character. $26,397. That is what we wanted. Now we can actually test it on the real input. Read inputs. Returns a list of input. And this means let's steal the code from the previous day. Get day 10. We read the lines, we map them to inputs. We read the inputs, and then we kind of do the same what we already did here. I just steal this. We loop over them, look for the points, and let's see. Oh, an error. Da 10 does not exist. Correct, it's day 10. All right, we got some points. And yeah, there's an error on every line, like the story says. Okay. Submit. That's the right answer. Okay, 1 gold star. Let's look at part 2. Now, discard the corrupted lines. The remaining lines are incomplete. Incomplete lines don't have any incorrect characters. Instead, they are missing some closing characters at the end of the line. To repair the navigation subsystem, you just need to figure out the sequence of closing characters that complete all open chunks in the line. You can only use closing characters, and you must add them in the correct order so that only legal pairs are formed and all chunks end up closed. In the example above, there are 5 incomplete lines. This one is completed by adding this stuff. Did you know that autocomplete tools also have contests? It's true. The score is determined by considering the completion string character by character. Start with a total score of 0, then for each character multiply the total score by 5, and then increase the total score by the point value given for the character in the following table. What? Multiply the total score by 5. Okay. So the last completion string of those 3 brackets would be scored as follows. Start with a total of 0, multiply by 5 is still 0, then add 2. Then multiply by 5, add points. Okay. Okay, weird. This multiply by 5 is weird, but okay, I accept it. The 5 lines completion strings have a total score as follows. Autocomplete tools are an odd bunch. The winner is found by sorting all of the scores and then taking the middle score. There will always be an odd number of scores to consider. Autocomplete tools are an odd bunch. The winner is found by sorting all of the scores and then taking the middle score. Why making it more complicated? There will always be an odd number of scores to consider. In this example, the middle score is this one. Because there are the same number of scores smaller and larger than it, find the completion string for each incomplete line, score the completion strings, and sort the scores. They're all kind of okay-ish problems, but they're all mixed together, so we need to solve multiple of them. Let's start by finding the biggest problem here, definitely. Let's try by finding the missing pieces. You read the input. Now, how do we do this? We could pass the lines until we hit an error. An incomplete error. We only care about incomplete lines. And then we know which one is missing, so we can add the missing one at the end. We only need to add them to the end and then pass again until it passes, I guess. Shouldn't be too hard. I'm now wondering how can we... I might want to just filter out the ones that are incomplete. Maybe do this quickly. So we get an input and then we pass it. If it no, or do we? Let's say we already have this. What do we need? We need the missing pieces. And then at some point we just want the points, I guess. And we have some lines that are not interesting here. So let's say everything exists already and we can just use it. Map this over a function that will create the points. Get auto or calculate autocomplete points for this input, and this will return some kind of number, or maybe null for the lines that are not interesting. That is, it's a good point. So we calculate those numbers for the input, and we can filter out everything that is not null. And then we have the points, and then we need the middle point. So we sort them with this. We sort them, and then the middle is points, and it's always, there's always a middle, so we can just divide by 2, and then we can say, hey, those are the autocomplete points, and then it's done. But now we actually need to implement those. It's complaining here. Oh, I see. Can just do map not null. Now we okay. So the input. I guess we need to pass it. Pass line, sorry. If it's what are the errors we are looking for? Now we only care about the ones that are not sorry, we are only looking for the ones that we are missing, that are too short. So an incomplete chunks. It's an incomplete chunk. We need to do something. If it's something else, then I think we do not care. So we can say it's null. And if it's an incomplete chunk, we need to add this at those points and do it again. So say points. And if we pass the line, we can return the points. And else we need to continue with a new input though. So current is our input, and we pass current. And if it's incomplete, we need a new current, which is input, and then we create a helper maybe again. And with appended and then a character. And we return a new input, which means it's an input that contains a value and the character added, sorry, and it's index 0 again. And the one we need to append is the one we were looking for. It's the incomplete chunk. Where are we throwing this? Incomplete chunk, and it's an incomplete chunk. We pass in the end character is the one we were looking for. So we can use the character here. And now we haven't calculated any points yet. So this is we need to do here. Just for a test, let's always add 1 and see if this even runs. If we created an endless loop. Looks like we did. It's a problem. Take a look again. I guess whenever this happens, we will just print it and then take a look. A line. Let's see what we actually do here. It doesn't change, which is a problem. Why is this the case? We add the character, so why is this not? Why is this not actually happening? It doesn't get longer. What? Current equals input with appended character. Let's quickly print the new line. I'm very confused why it's not changing. Oh, stop. It hasn't changed. So something is wrong with appended. We return a new in of the current value with the character appended. Why is this not working? Hello? Okay, this is apparently working. Changing. Why is it not appending? Is plus the wrong thing to do here? Its value and character. Does this look better? What am I missing? If I add hello, it feels like I'm missing the obvious here. This is adding hello, but it's not adding the character. It is adding the character. Then why? Why is this running forever now? Okay. Let's quickly add the debugger here. What is happening? The character is this. This is the string. Wait a second, this is the string? String is much longer than what we saw before. Is this true? Where's the output? Here. No. Okay, this is super confusing. I only want to look at the first line. And let's create a debug function again to make sure this is working. Fun debug2. This is our input. And then create a list. And we call debug2. Again, something that would be much easier with tests. Okay, we get error here. Oh yeah, we can't get the middle of nothing, so let's ignore this for a second. Oh, Let's go back. So this is way too short. It should have added all this crap, but it added only 2 characters. So that is definitely wrong. What kind of points did we get at the end? Nothing. So we are hitting a parser exception now. Did we add the wrong character by any chance? Unexpected chunk end. That is weird. We are adding the wrong end. So it is curly bracket, square bracket that we are adding. And this actually needs curly bracket, curly bracket. How did this happen? Incomplete chunk. Incomplete chunk. Was looking for end character. Print this for a second. Was looking for curly bracket, was looking for square bracket. Did I use the wrong line? Yeah, what the hell? We are reading the wrong line all the time. Okay, this cannot work, of course. No. No, it is the thing. But this needs curly bracket, yeah. And then another curly bracket. This is definitely doing the wrong thing here. But we are looking for the right one. Oh. The order might be important, right? Or not? No. I've been looking at the string from the start. Let's look at the index where this is happening. Because the problem is currently we pass them. If we had an error, we immediately stop. No, we have incomplete lines only. This means we always need to add at the end. How did we end up looking for the wrong character? Incomplete chunk. We are looking for this, correct. We have an incomplete chunk. We are looking for closing square bracket. But why? Let's create a simpler input, I guess. Let's try this. Okay. Something is completely broken. Calculate the points. Means we pass a line. Pass a chunk. Inner chunk. Catch the input end of file here. This is happening at a different point. We passed an inner chunk. Oh. What if it happens here? We just passed a chunk. And then we want to read the next one. Yeah, this one can of course fail too. Stop. Now we have this endless loop again with this simple example. Even though we say we are appending this, we don't. Why? This must be a super obvious mistake, but incomplete chunk. We were looking for the end and we don't handle it. This is debug 2. Calculate points. You're replacing current. Like, why is it? We are appending this and the new line is this. And then it happens again. No, we append to input and not current. No. Okay, that was very stupid. Now we can go back to the actual thing. That's why it's run. Yeah. Okay. So we are appending a bunch of stuff, 8 things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. That looks good. And now we need to actually find the actual points. That's something we didn't do here. Get autocomplete points. Okay, character. And this is this. Rounded 1. Square 2. Curly 3. Angle 4. And an else case. Illegal state exception, not an ending character. Throw. Okay, so how was this? First we multiply with 5 points. Multiply equals 5. And then we add the autocomplete points for this character. And then we can comment out all our helpers. This is the score we get for what actually? What are we running? Debug 2. Okay, let's run part 2. And for those, we should get this score. And we throw in everything, because we also need to filter out the ones we are not interested in. Let's put in all those. Then we map those to inputs. Need to turn them into lines. And let's run debug 2. See if we get the right amount of points. We get this score, which is completely wrong, of course. Didn't it say it's always an odd number? We didn't get an odd number. God damn it. Why not? Okay, I guess we need to print those. Points. Ugh, so much stuff. Let's also throw here if points is larger than 0, because we shouldn't get a parse exception after we started auto-completing. Parser exception during autocomplete, just to make sure we are not hitting this. And then on this. Okay. We are actually running into this. Is this actually happening? Wow. Are we appending the wrong thing? What the hell? Felt like we were at the end, but maybe we are not. We need to somehow make this better to read. Now let's use all the debugging magic we have. A divider. Print this. Okay. See, the only one that is wrong. So this one is our input. And we had a curly brace. Why? It's obviously not the thing we should be adding. So why are we doing this? Let's only run this line. Yeah, I still wish we would have started with tests. I think that is what I will do tomorrow. Okay, we have this input. Why are we looking for a curly brace? Doesn't make any sense to me. So let's stop at the end of files here. Okay, so we have just read an opening bracket. We passed a chunk and we have hit an opening bracket. Which is this one. And we went into pass inner chunk. And the current one is an open bracket. We try to pass another chunk since it's not the end. So we go into pass chunk, but pass chunk throws because it cannot continue. Wait, this is a, we try to pass the inner chunk, which is this is the current one. It's not the end character, so we say pass chunk, and this one. Why is this not going into pass inner chunk now? Who throwed? Pass chunk throwed. We got index 22. I'm not really sure why we ended up here. Because if you're end of file, who's throwing end of file? It is current, right? But current should still read. We were looking for the end character. And I can I do not understand why we didn't go beyond create a simplified version of this problem. So in this case, we end with the broken stuff. So if we simplify this, it's kind of this. Oh, no, it's more complicated because we are like this. Yeah. Unexpected chunk end was looking for. Yeah, we are kind of doing the wrong thing. We are appending the wrong thing again. I thought we fixed that. So let's run a debugger. We run into this problem. We're looking for the ending curly brace. We say, wait a second, this is not the curly brace. So we try to pass a chunk. And okay, who the fuck? The current character is the opening curly brace. So this one should actually continue to pass the inner chunk and not throw here. Confusion. This is the only one that can throw in here. I need to. What do I actually? What am I interested here? Maybe let's look at the index. No, go away. Let's try the magical coffee. If we are at the index, let's current. Ooh. Ooh or ooh. Now I got an idea. We might have moved too soon. If the current one is not the end character, so we are at the end position, we pass a chunk. And now in past chunk we already passed it. Who proceeds? Only the past chunk proceeds.
What is going on in there? Why? What is taking so long? I wasted all day.
The only thing that can throw is current. This means, oh, wait a second. We passed a chunk. We see the open rounded bracket, we go into pass inner chunk, and since we already proceeded, we are now end of file. This throws out of this, and then it looks like it throwed in the other case, but actually we need this here. Since we throw in current and not in proceed, which might have been a stupid idea, we have to live with it for now. We actually want to throw here. Catch this here, I mean. And then remember that we want to, we're incompleting this because otherwise we throw out of this inner and then only see the previous search. Awesome, that looks better. Let's run our whole debug input and see if this time we get the right number. This can go away. And our points are 200,957. Yes, okay. Now we are close to being done, I think. Let's not run debug tool, but let's run part 2 instead. Let's see what this returns. We got a huge number. Let's enter this. That's not the right answer. Your answer is too low. If you're stuck, make sure you're using full input data. It is too low. It's possible that one possibility is that ints are not big enough for holding this data. So maybe we want to use longs instead. See if this changes anything. This is what we guessed with longs. If longs are important, then this should return another number. And it actually does. So the ints were too small and we essentially looped. And it didn't give us negative number. Gave us a positive, so it wasn't obvious. Submit. That's the right answer. Awesome. This took a while. We had a bunch of bugs. Small one off by one errors, throwing from the outer loop instead of the inner one. We could have prevented all of that if we would have written those small functions that we wrote here, parse chunk and so on, and would have written test cases for those and then put them together to find a solution eventually. What we kind of did partially with creating our debug inputs, but it was quite more painful than actually writing a test. So depending on what the next problem is, maybe I will start by actually writing tests. That might avoid some of the debugging we had to go through today. Other than that, it was a nice exercise, I think. See, is there anything else we should have done differently? The input reading. The helper class was quite helpful, but throwing from current instead of when we proceed past, that made it more complicated than it should have, I think. But yeah, we did it. Awesome. Yeah. Let's see you tomorrow. You can find my solution on GitHub again. And yeah, bye-bye.